What is the true purpose of a political hearing? Is it a genuine search for facts or a stage for ideological warfare? We often see lawmakers locked in heated debates over polarizing topics, with talking points flying like arrows across the aisle. But what happens when a representative decides to flip the script entirely? What happens when, instead of interrogating a witness, a lawmaker uses their time to hold up a mirror to the entire process, contrasting the abstract political obsessions of the day with the brutal, tangible realities faced by the people they represent? In a recent hearing, Representative Jasmine Crockett did just that. She seized her allotted time not to score points in a familiar debate, but to deliver a poignant and powerful monologue that cut through the noise. She shifted the conversation from theoretical frameworks to the lived experiences of children who lack clean clothes, who live with the trauma of gun violence, and whose futures hang in the balance. But was this a masterful strategic pivot, or a dereliction of her duty to question the witnesses? And more importantly, what does her approach reveal about the profound and growing disconnect between the halls of power and the streets of America?
I'm gonna go to the end real quick, because I know that was brought up. Critical race theory, is that typically taught K through 12, yes or no?
No.
Okay, all right, so we can stop with the nonsense, because K through 12 was not teaching critical race theory, at least in this country. I can't talk about what happens in other countries, but in our country, K through 12 is not learning critical race theory, just for those that are unfamiliar. In addition to that, we just heard about AFT and what they're advocating for. And I know that there was a comment that you made as relates to discipline, and how that's something AFT should be advocating for so that teachers can be safer. Is that correct? Am I characterizing what you said correctly?
I believe that both the NEA and the AFT should endorse policies that keep educators safe. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a quick question. Actually, I would like for all three of you to answer this question. It's just a yes or no. We'll start at this end. When you were growing up and going through school, did you ever have to go through an active shooter drill? Yes or no?
No.
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 Oh, okay. All right. So can we agree that guns being kept out of schools may be one of those things that could keep not only teachers safe, but also students safe? Yes or no?
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you. So I do want to touch on a few things that Ms. Ocasio-Cortez talked about, because I don't really know the breadth of your understanding or experiences, but to give a little clarity to the district that I come from, 20% of my district live at or below poverty. And I do come from an urban district. I do have a majority minority district. I know that we've talked about DEI and diversity. And I find that when I'm here, I am constantly fighting to make sure that I can break through the noise and the stereotypes that exist around not only my kiddos in my district, but just my constituents. And one of the things that maybe some of you have never experienced, I don't know, is the fact that one of the leading reasons that students in my district don't show up to school is because they are poor, because some of them are homeless. We found that there were children that didn't go to school because they didn't have clean clothes. That is something that certain people don't have to worry about. And they found that if they brought in washing machines so that kids wouldn't make fun of them because they had clean clothes, that they would show up. These are things that maybe in a more affluent district, they may not need money for. So while one of my colleagues talked about how much investment has to go into some of these school districts in the inner city, I do want to make it clear that there are different obstacles that my kiddos deal with. In addition to the fact that I practice criminal defense work prior to coming into the legislative realm. And in my district, I have the highest incarcerated zip codes in the entire state. What that means is that sometimes I have children that go home and they don't have parents to go home to. Or if they are going home to parents, their parents may be involved in things that aren't necessarily the best things for kids to be around. And so, as it's already been stated, sometimes the safest space is at school for some of these children. And what is so annoying to me is that we debate whether or not we will invest in our futures. As far as I'm concerned, there is no better investment than in our children. Because if we are going to make sure that this country continues on, it's not gonna start by investing in people that look like me or of my age. It starts with making sure that there's a foundation. And I just wanna say that I am thankful for those teachers that decided to go in, even when they were under-resourced, even given of their own resources, to make it happen. I lost teachers in my district during the pandemic because they literally risked their lives in the midst of a pandemic to show up because they love those kids that much, because I can tell you, the pay is not there. Teachers aren't getting rich. Maybe professors, but not teachers. And so the fact is, I've talked to my school districts. They were able to take advantage of the extra money that was given to them, but guess what? They still had gaps that they needed to fill. And the reason that I brought up gun violence is, number one, it's a safety issue, but also as it relates to the mental health. Children nowadays know where they need to go in case somebody comes in. They're looking for the closet. That is no way for kids in America to live. So we need to make sure that we put kids first. Thank you so much, and with that, I will...
Representative Jasmine Crockett's performance in this hearing was a masterclass in narrative redirection. Rather than engaging in a conventional cross-examination, she fundamentally transformed her allotted time from an interrogation into a powerful, uninterrupted speech, using the witnesses merely as validators for her foundational premises. Her strategy can be deconstructed into 3 distinct phases: dismantling distractions, building consensus, and delivering a reality check. Her central argument was not merely about education funding, but about the moral failure of a political system that prioritizes abstract culture wars over the concrete, life-altering struggles of its most vulnerable citizens. The structure of her questioning was deliberate and highly effective. She began by addressing critical race theory, a frequent political lightning rod. By securing a simple no to the question of whether it's taught in K through 1-2 schools, she swiftly neutralized a potentially contentious talking point, framing it as nonsense, irrelevant to the real discussion. This was not a quest for information, but a strategic clearing of the rhetorical battlefield. Having dismissed the distraction, her objective shifted to establishing an undeniable common ground: school safety. Her series of rapid-fire, yes or no questions about active shooter drills and the presence of guns in schools was designed to elicit agreement, not debate. This Socratic method wasn't meant to uncover new facts, but to build a logical and emotional foundation for her main argument, forcing a shared acknowledgement of a grim reality before she delved into its causes. The core of her presentation was an appeal to pathos, grounded in the stark realities of her district. She used specific visceral evidence, not documents or charts, but human stories. The anecdote about students missing school for lack of clean clothes and the simple, profound impact of installing washing machines was her most potent weapon. This story did more to argue for increased and targeted school funding than any statistic could. It translated abstract policy debates about poverty and resource allocation into a tangible image of need and a practical solution. Her tone was a carefully modulated instrument. It was sharp and dismissive when dispatching with CRT, clinical and rhythmic during the gun safety questions, and then shifted to one of deep, heartfelt passion and frustration when speaking about the children, or kiddos, in her district. This modulation projected authenticity and authority. She was not just a legislator. She was a fierce advocate, a storyteller, and a defender of her community. This demeanor allowed her to maintain absolute control of the narrative. By design, she faced no resistance or evasion from the witnesses because her questions were closed-ended and served as mere stepping stones. The witnesses were not adversaries to be broken down, but rather conduits for her argument's momentum. She effectively silenced any potential opposition by not allowing space for it, a strategic choice that ensured her message was delivered unfiltered. In conclusion, Crockett did not engage in a debate. She staged a powerful intervention. She usurped the traditional format of a hearing to argue that while Congress debates theories, children are facing the tangible consequences of poverty and violence. Her performance answers the question we posed at the beginning. It was a masterful strategic pivot that exposed the cavernous disconnect between Washington's political discourse and the lived experiences of millions of Americans. By refusing to play the expected political game, she forced a confrontation with a more uncomfortable truth. that the real crises facing the nation's future are not found in academic theories, but in the empty stomachs, unwashed clothes, and traumatized minds of its children. Her strategy was a powerful reminder that behind every policy debate there are human lives, and she chose to give those lives a voice, loud and clear. What do you think of this approach? Was it a brilliant use of congressional time to highlight critical issues, or an abuse of the hearing process that sidelined the witnesses? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analyses.